of and I had to figure out why. And explaining that the book was back ordered, and then saying what we would do to reshare the event, post about the book plates, and say that the book is back in stock. I think they were actually, like, they appreciated the feedback of, like, oh, like, what can we do to make future events better? And I think that with an event like this, with a book like this, like, maybe they will have the possibility of doing a larger print run if the author is doing a tour. And I don't know if they didn't have any tours planned for him. I mean, obviously they did because we requested. So there were things that both of us had to apologize for and to get through. And I think that they were completely understanding. I mean, at least they said they were. So.
Yeah, I think their publishers are just in the dark as we are. You know, we don't, just like Shane said, it's a new world for all of us, and it really is no way to expect anything from these events except for viewership. And hopefully at some point we can sort of monetize it and get some sales out of them. But it's a mystery still, you know, who knows how long it's going to go on.
So a question for you both. Who, for your virtual events, do you keep any kind of demographics or analytical information to know who's attending your events, to see where they're coming from? Do you know if it's your typical customer? Is it a new customer base? Do you have any idea where these viewers are coming from?
I don't. We've not paid much attention. I just, you know, I look at views. Maybe we should probably keep track of that sort of thing. But yeah, we don't do that at all. I don't know if you, Shane, if you do that at all. But
I've gotten curious about it and looked at a couple of the events because it does tell you on Facebook somewhere in the analytics where people are coming from. So we had an event with Claire McIntosh and Ruth Ware, who were from the UK, and I was like, how many people were watching that were in the country versus how many people were watching, like, out of the country? And it, like, 2% of viewers were in St. Louis, like 1% was in Bristol, UK, and then, like, but it didn't list where all the other percent were coming from. And I was like, but I'm confused. Like, I mean, I guess because people were watching from all over the country, like, because we didn't have, like, maybe it only lists from over 1%, but I was like, okay, this is not incredibly helpful. Like,
so I did want to quickly mention this since we're on the topic. So with Crowdcast and Zoom, if you are like our event today, inviting people to be on screen or participate in the chat, like in Crowdcast, you can require registration, which then gathers email addresses, which I think is great. Zoom would be a little more of an issue if you're not inviting attendees to be on screen at the same time, but Crowdcast, you can set up the event invitation page to require registration where you're gathering emails and all that stuff, so you would have that moving forward. Just wanted to mention that. Shane, if you don't mind, during our talk the other day, you mentioned that you'd been partnering with other organizations for virtual events and that you had some success in that area. Would you mind talking about that a little bit?
So we've worked both with the St. Charles City County Library, the St. Louis County Library. They've both been doing some virtual events on their own with us as the book-selling partner for a couple of events, and they thankfully, those events I rarely have to be involved with, so it's kind of just a nice added, like, okay, we're helping with promotion of the event, we're helping with book sales for the event, but it is an evening where I maybe don't have to show my face on camera, which is fun. But then we've also been working with a local media partner that is they're a nonprofit education channel here in St. Louis, and they have been helping us with some of our events, because we've been using Be Live as our main platform So they have helped us do some of the Zoom events. They were talking about doing Crowdcast, but I think they did not end up going with that. So they have Zoom and StreamYard as the possibilities of doing their events. So it is just someone else to help me with moderating questions, with helping admit audience, or just being an extra source of publicity for the event has been really helpful. And the event with NPR tonight, so they are helping with publicity. They're going to be, we're still hosting the event, but they're going to be moderating and then showing or airing the event on NPR later. We've also submitted events to C-SPAN for publicity as well after the fact, and we've actually gone into reruns on C-SPAN, which is so much fun. I guarantee there are a ton of viewers there. I love C-SPAN.
Great. We did have a question come through in chat. Danny, I think it's Danny Keene from Raven Bookstore. Why do you prefer Be Live? I'm not familiar with the platform.
So Be Live and StreamYard are pretty similar. They're less expensive than Crowdcast, especially for the amount of events that we've been doing. So every platform kind of has their own limitations, and we could have done like up to, I think, 3 events per month with Be Live for free, where it was just 2 people on the screen talking to each other. But we pretty much immediately out of the gate had an event that was going to be 3 people. And we wanted to be able to brand the events, so that was pretty important to us, and you can't really brand on Zoom. So with Be Live, our logo is on every single event, so no matter who shares it, no matter where it's going in the world, it is branded with our logo. That was pretty important to us when we were looking for a platform, and having more than 2 people in conversation was also pretty important. So we, based on kind of those ideas, that led us to Be Live. StreamYard, I think if we had discovered that, we might have gone with that instead. It's pretty similar. It has a little bit more capabilities, but at this point, we are paying for Be Live. We can have unlimited hours per month for, I think it's $29.99. So I can do like 2 events per month, or I can do 30 events per month, which was something that we weren't certain of going into this. With Crowdcast, I know that there's a limitation for the number of hours that you can broadcast per month and the number of viewers. So we didn't go with that based on some of the pricing and some of the limitations of, I'm still trying to convince Be Live that they need to add that buy now button, because that would be really incredible. But I don't know how that works with Facebook. So that maybe is not an option for them. But those were some of the things that we found when looking for a platform that were important to us. So.
Follow up to that from Riley Davis. Do you struggle to use Be Live because less people are familiar with it? She's not a huge fan of Zoom, but it seems to be the platform most people are comfortable with.
So some of the authors are a little bit reluctant to use things outside of Zoom, but they've actually made improvements to where it is actually pretty easy. It's very similar to Zoom, where you send the link and they click on the link and it takes them into the area. The audience doesn't know that we're using an app called Be Live, unless they're reading like on Facebook. I think it says like below streamed using Be Live or something like that. So the audience has no idea. The authors, they're the ones that are kind of, you have to reassure them. And I think as you become comfortable with the platform, it's easier to tell people like, yes, this may not be a platform you're familiar with. It is what we're using. We like the platform for this reason, this reason, this reason, and they've actually made improvements to where it's easier to join. So we've only had one event that kind of a complete kerfluffle where we couldn't start the event and we couldn't get the authors in. And we did have to switch to Zoom at the very last minute, but that was a lot of column A, a lot of column B, and just internet issues. So I think it was unpreventable. It wasn't the fault of the app. It wasn't the fault of any participant. So, and that has to be understood by everyone involved, that sometimes sometimes shit happens. So
we're winding down to 2 p.m. right now. So I do have another question for you. And if anybody has a question, please get that into chat right away so we can cover that before we close out. So if you both wouldn't mind talking about, so you have, you've pitched the event, you have the event, it's ready to go. What are your steps in advertising this event? How is it different from, say, an in-person event in the past that you would have advertised? What techniques or what are you doing differently now to notify your customers of this event, while also keeping in mind, everybody's doing virtual events all over? What are you doing?
do you want to go first?
Yeah. We are newsletter, social media, tagging, on our website. I think we're leaning more on social media than we would have if we were doing something in store. We try to, we have a nice window behind the laptop here, and we tried to, because we get a lot of traffic in front of the store, and we have these really nice windows, and try to advertise that way. I'm not sure if it helps at all, but that's how we try to reach out. If anyone has any suggestions, like I said, we're just sort of new to this, and just trying to find the right audience.
We are still doing press releases like we would have if the event had been in person. We are relying very heavily on social media, especially Facebook, since that is where the events are going to be ending up. But we also, what was I going to say? Tagging, sharing, yeah, all of that. I had something else to add that was not already mentioned, and I cannot remember what it is. Talking to customers. So because I've worked in the store for such a long time, I know customers that would be interested in these events, already. So reaching out directly to people, there's no harm in that. Especially if they are on your email list already. So saying, hey, Mia, I'm doing this event. I know you've read at least 2 of the books from this author. Help me spread some word. And that's been actually really helpful and really awesome too. So that's what I have. Yeah.
Great. All right, so we are right at 2 o'clock, so we're gonna wrap this up. I want to thank Shane and Javier for joining us today. Big virtual round of applause to you guys. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
Good to see everyone.
Yes, it really is.
Yeah, it's a nice big crowd today. It's great. Just really quickly, the end of this week, this Friday, you'll be receiving an email from us, which will have links to all the videos from this week's events, from today's education session, tomorrow's rep picks, and then Thursday night's author presentation. So just look out for that. You'll be receiving one of those every Friday moving forward. So if you aren't unable to attend, please know that you can get those presentations and information at the end of each week. That being said, thank you all for joining us.
Thanks, Larry, and thanks, Shane. It's nice talking to you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Kate.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.